All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Real Life, the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast. As always, it's your boy Armando. This is, as you see on the little tiki tracker, whatever it's called in the bottle, little taper, pre-recorded episodes, not a live show. I'm actually at this point, I'm in Italy. 10th year anniversary with my wife. We're in Italy. So I decided to do a couple of pre-recorded episodes. This episode is going to be with my good buddy, the Jabber Hammer, Paul Roberts. We have a lot to talk about. And then next episode, we're going to have Bobby Roastbeef from Jigs and Bigs. And then after that, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to be our third episode. So surprise, surprise. We'll see about that. But anyways, so kind of a little bit, it's not going to be like, how do you call that? An order of events, because my live show, I'm recording this before I go, obviously, on vacation. Today is the Tuesday, the 12th of September. The 14th of September, if everything goes well, Ryan Lambert is going to be on my live show. That was a live show. Hopefully that worked through. Again, this is the 12th of September. I'm recording, and it's airing on what? This is airing on the 21st of September. So I'm going to give you my weekend review for the week of Monday, the 4th of September to the 12th, because I went on the water this week. I don't know if you listened to my last episode. I had a little bit of a sinus infection. It turned into conjunctivitis, pink eye. Is that what you call? I'm gonna call it pink eye because I'm pretty sure I botched the original name, conjunctivitis. Plus, conjunctivitis, if I'm pronouncing it right, sounds like an STD. And so, no, it's not an STD. It is pink eye. So, anyways, my sinus infection turned to pink eye. I just drinking a lot of liquids. That's why I don't have a beer today, because I was drinking a lot of liquid and trying to get rested. So finally today, the weather was perfect to go bass fishing. I did record a video that's going to go on the YouTube. I had a great time, caught a ton of bass until I got not shot at, but there were some idiots on the bank of Lake Arlington. So if you know Texas, we have a lake here called Lake Arlington, which is probably the dirtiest lake in Dallas, probably in all of Texas. The east side of the lake is not that bad. The west side of the lake falls into this neighborhood that is kind of sus. And sure enough, some kids with a machine gun just firing at the lake, and I guess they didn't see me. And I can see the bullets from the machine gun just going pop, 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 pop. I'm not exaggerating. It was probably something like a football field, like 100 yards from where I was, but still in my general direction, even though it was way left of me. But yeah, that's still close enough, especially if they don't see me, because I was right around the corner of a little bend. So anyways, that was kind of scary. So after that, I was like, packed it up. I fished for a couple of hours already. I'm still getting my wind back from being sick a whole week and a half. So anyways, that's what's going on. Let's bring in the Jabber Hammer and talk a little bit about that and some other stuff. What's going on, buddy?
Oh,
You came with a sound effect and everything.
Oh man, you can't have a soundboard and not use it. I got a fart sound I'll probably play later.
I like how while I was doing the intro, you wrote a bunch of messages. I don't know if you realized that was a private chat. Like if you wanted it to come on the Facebook, or was that for me? All those messages?
Well, yeah, they're all private because we're not live streaming. So
I
I didn't
know.
think.
I was like, is he talking to me? Well,
Well,
why is he getting me distracted?
look, man, I'm trying to pretend like we've got a live audience since I'm not good enough for live.
Yes, you
That
are.
it,
It's
and
just
I'm
you've
just
been live on my show. You hacked into our 2 episodes ago. That was fun.
I didn't hack in. It's not my fault that somebody put me in the text chain with the damn live event.
Yeah, I feel bad for you because you wanted to get on our last episode with Jake Harshman, but Jake was I don't know if you got to listen to it. Like he was dead falling asleep on that show. He was super tired. So we were about to end it. It's like if we bring Paul Roberts, aka the Jabber Hammer, none of us are going to sleep. So
Well, I'm good for until about 10:58 p.m. tonight. So you're not drinking. I hope you got a Red Bull or two because we're gonna roll.
we're
I
gonna
got a
roll.
ton of stuff to talk about tonight. It has it's a bunch of gibberish, but we're gonna talk about it because you can't talk about what you don't talk about. Know what I
That's
mean?
true. That is very true. It sounds like Yogi Berra quote. Remember Yogi Berra from the Mets?
That was
Catcher from the
the
Mets.
Mets, my man. That's the Yankees. Don't
No,
don't
Yogi Berra. Oh yeah. Yogi Berra was from
don't
the
don't
Yankees.
even.
My
The
bad. My
man
bad.
is a Yankee legend. Matter of fact,
Yes,
his
sir.
granddaughter went to University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I did not know her, but crib. But yeah, no, Yogi Berra, his were really good, and he was famous, so they mean something. The shit that comes out of my mouth is just, it is what it is. It is what you make it is. That's all I gotta say.
It's funny. I was listening to um what's the name of that show with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN? Like First Take. So now they got Pat McAfee. I don't know if you know Pat McAfee. Used
Oh
to be a
yeah,
punter
man.
for
That's
the
hey,
Colts.
punter blood, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Pat, my
So
boy. I don't
I mean,
know him, but
he made his podcast into something now that actually it's on ESPN now. So I
I
love that they let him be sleeveless, even though it's
well,
national TV, quote
yeah,
unquote.
yeah. I do love that he is bringing some craziness into the forefront. For Bass and Brews, that's what Alex and I strive to be. One day is the Bass and Brews / Elite Series color commentators. I'm not sure that it's actually going to be through Bass. It's probably something we'll have to do on our own because I'm pretty sure they would censor about every third word that we said. But that's okay. We're thinking about doing some live fishing color commentating coming up in the next year of the Elite Series fishing, and we're gonna do it Bass and Brew style.
That's gonna be awesome, man. You never know. Maybe they'll bring you to another ESPN segment once we
It would be on like ESPN 22. It'd be like
ESPN Ocho.
yeah, well 22 Deuce Deuce. Back in the day, you remember people talk about Skinamax all the time, but HBO, after 11 o'clock on HBO is when shit got real.
Oh yeah.
Actually, and Alex has no idea that we're going to be doing this elite live commentating either. So this is news to him. I'm breaking it to everybody, the world today, even Alex. And we're going to see how it goes. It probably won't happen, but if it does, it will.
You're gonna do kind of like what Eli Manning and Peyton Manning do now, where they just color commentators on their own podcast while they're watching a
Yeah.
live football
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Back in the day on Twitter, I ain't calling it X, but on Twitter, when I got on there in like 2011, 2010, somewhere around there, like we live tweeted all college football and games like that, except now it's going to be us actually talking. So it's going to be great. I'm not going to have to worry about misspelling nothing. And I'd hate for us to have to do closed captions because it would nobody would still know what I'm saying.
So I wonder how that works with copyrights, right? Can you actually show like the is a MLF or Elite live stream while you're talking at it, or is there
I
some
mean,
copyrights to it?
yeah, you can do it until they say something. And I mean. Look, what they gonna do?
It's
I mean,
better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
oh, we even ask for forgiveness. I mean, you just do it. Just cut out a couple segments here. And I don't know. That's when we come to those waters, we'll wade through them, and we'll see. It ain't like we're talking to a bunch of people here. So
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
hey,
So
do you know conjunctivitis? I
did I
did not
say it
know that.
right? By the way,
I don't know. I tried to spell it in the comments that nobody can see, but I will say this about pink eye is that usually you have to, like pink eye usually comes from touching dookie and then touching your face. So like, were you out on the water one day taking a
you
kayak
know
poop and you maybe didn't clean up good or something? How'd that
it.
happen?
It's funny because I read up on that and it said exactly what you said in a little bit more scientific terms. But it's funny because pink eye, I'm just gonna stick with pink eye. because it really does sound like an STD uh, disease. So,
Well, I
anyways,
mean, pink eye could be an STD
yeah, I guess. I mean,
disease.
anything can. If I mean, I guess
Well,
technically. But anyways,
if we break down the word pink eye, we could start to correlate that to some STD-ish stuff. But I don't think this is the podcast for.
yeah, I don't think this is the one. But
Okay,
anyways,
you invited me
let's
on.
not go down that rabbit hole. But
Speaking
so what I
speaking of
was gonna
holes,
say. Oh, so usually like preteens are the ones who get pink eye. Like all my friends when they're 9, 10, 11, that's when
yeah.
you get pink eye because you're playing in the dirt, you're playing outside, at least our generation, your generation, my
Hmm.
generation. That's how you got pink eye. So I never had pink eye. And I've always been outdoorsy. Uh, so I was like, man, I had to wait till 49 to actually get pink eye. And I guess from what I read up on it, so I guess the way I got it, I had a sinus infection, which that was a whole episode I mentioned last week. I'll tell you because you hadn't listened to it. So I went to LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, Lake in Austin, and a
He
week
played
be
for the Mets.
yeah. So that's right. So there's somebody had died that week prior because of that amoeba bacteria that gets into your
Hmm.
nostrils. So I was playing in some sandbars. It was like right in the middle of the river section of it. The current makes this bunch of little islands. So that island was submerged about 2 feet underwater, and we were playing football, catch football. I was diving into the water, which was somewhere in the 90 degrees, and I was stirring up all that silt. I was doing everything that they tell you not to do to avoid getting that. So the following day, I was sick, and I was freaking out. I thought like I'm gonna
Hmm.
die if I had that thing because it's like 97% mortality rate.
Yeah, that
So
shit scares the hell out of me.
yeah,
Look,
it does. I'm not kidding. I
mm-mm.
was scared, man. I mentioned it on my last podcast. I was scared. Like I thought I had that, especially knowing that somebody died in that lake a week or 2 weeks
Well,
prior.
not only that, I mean, you got to water forced up your nose to
Yeah,
get that, but where
that's what
that's
happened.
prevalent,
Yeah,
I know, but where that's prevalent too, you got flesh eating bacteria and shit. I ain't trying to get none of that stuff.
yeah,
Like when I water ain't getting as hot as y'all's is, but we still in the high 80s, 90s, and my body's of water in here in the Raleigh area, and it's I ain't. I put my kayak in the water, and then after that, I ain't getting in that water for no reason on purpose. When I want to eat something or drink something, I got sanitizer, which is what in my household we call hand sanitizer. My
yeah.
my little boy can't look harder. We had to kind of shorten it to sanitizer. I keep sanitizer in my kayak. So anytime I'm going to touch my face or eat or do anything like that, man, I've got sanitizer rolling all on my damn hands and stuff. The fish are probably getting some kind of contact alcoholism when I touch them. I ain't doing all that. Y'all crazy be swimming in this hot ass water in this
I
time
know,
of the day. No,
and I
man,
usually don't, but
crazy.
my sister invited me. She has a boat, so but it was fun though. But like that was on Labor Day, but that Sunday before Labor Day, I was already feeling sick. But I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go. So when you're out in the water, you're having fun, having a couple of beers, you know, you forget about you're sick. And then Tuesday rolls around, and my body's tired. Uh, I had my foster daughter got married on Friday, so Friday, having fun, having a couple of drinks. So it was a really long weekend with a lot of partying and all that, and it caught up to me. So by Tuesday, I had a huge sinus infection, which that turned
Mm.
into the pink eye.
And that's scary too because you out there playing in water with the brain eating amoeba, and then you start getting sinus infection, which is all like frontal lobe headache
Yeah,
pressure. So you do get scared. I will have to say this: the pictures you posted of that wedding, man, you dress up pretty nice, man. You're very
I was
handsome.
I was the MC. She asked me, my little foster daughter asked me to be the MC for her wedding. So I was
Well,
excited about it. I was really happy.
well, congratulations on the marriage. You look really handsome, and I'll have to
Thank
say
you.
this: you age so very well. I mean, you're 49. If it even with the little bit of gray hair, I wouldn't think you were as senior citizen as you are. So I'm impressed by your how well you age.
I drink a lot of water. I'll tell you that. And I've always too. I don't have kids, so and I didn't get
There
married
we
till I
go.
was
Yep.
39. So
Hmm.
so that's I've always I mean, I generally being a happy person, I guess.
So
I live stress free as much
it
as I can.
sounds like the gray hair and the aging that you've done has been because of fishing. Then,
Pretty much. Yeah.
yeah,
The stress of fishing.
it makes sense. Makes
And
sense. The
it's
stress.
funny because I did start getting gray hair early in my late 20s.
Are you bald?
No, not at all.
You got a luscious head of hair. Look
Yeah,
at you,
luscious head of hair, man.
man. No retreating hairline. You're doing
Nope.
good, man.
No, I can't
You're not
complain.
overweight
49
like
years
I
old.
am. I
So you
know.
know the first time, this is a story that was interesting. The first time that I actually got conscious of my age. So I moved from Puerto Rico to Texas when I was 37. I was 37. And I rented an apartment. I used to work at the airport, American Airlines. I rented an apartment close to the airport. And I worked a late shift. So I would get home. And so we had that communal laundry area. It wasn't my apartment didn't have a laundry, so everybody just shared that
At a
huge communal,
laundromat.
yeah, the laundromat. So I would do laundry when there was nobody there, like at 2 a.m. Because I go to bed late, man. I go to bed late. And it's funny. I sleep maybe like 5 hours a day. Like I've never every now and then, but generally I don't sleep more than 5 hours a day.
That's the old people thing. The older you get, the less you sleep because old
Well,
people are
I
scared.
always
Old
like that.
people, yeah, but old people scared they ain't gonna wake up next morning, so they sleep. They try not to sleep too damn much.
Well, it's funny because my college year in Puerto Rico, which is a Caribbean island, man, it's great weather all year long. Like when I was in college, I mean, partying began on Tuesday and ended on Sunday at 6 a.m. Like during my college years, I would sleep like 2 hours, like a day. Like it was nonstop. But anyways, uh going back to this, I would go wash clothes, and this beautiful young Mexican girl comes up to the laundromat with her kid and starts washing clothes and all that. And I'm washing clothes, and she starts up a conversation because I'm 37. This young girl, I'm assuming she was something in her early 20s. I was like, I don't feel. I mean, I'm not a creeper, you know. I feel like if I'm 37, I probably look like 37. Back then I was fit. I just come from Puerto Rico. I used to do a lot of surfing in Puerto Rico, and I wasn't surfing. I would do my exercise would go to the Olympic pool and do like a mile
Mm.
swimming every other day. So, anyways, I was fit back then and all that. And she strikes up the conversation, and she's kind of flirting with me. And I was like, I kind of feeling good about myself. Like, hey, I'm 37. This girl is, you know, strike up a conversation and all that. I'm like, I just went along with it. And all of a sudden she asked me, like, how old are you? And I didn't want to answer. So it's like, how old do you think I am? That was the first thing. I was like, I don't know. I don't want to say 37.
You're like,
It's like,
hey, baby, how old you think I am?
yeah. So like, how old do you think I am? She's like, oh, you're about 25. And I was like, I'm actually 30. I laughed at I was like, no, I'm actually 37. And you know what that young lady said? She's like, oh, that's my same age as my mom. That's it. I'm packing. Nice to meet you. Have a great day. Great evening.
I
We're not talking again.
I would have been
I
like,
feel that's the first time I felt like old. Like, I'm old.
so I've been like, hey, is your mom single? Do you want a sibling? Do you want another
The
sibling?
jeans, I
If
think.
she is, I'm
Oh,
free.
that was
I'm free
funny.
to mingle.
I was
I love a
single back then.
mom.
So
Well, yeah, single back then, 37-year-old mama, same age. Come on now.
she was
Hello.
she told me she was I think she said she was like 17 and her kid was at least 2 years old.
Mm.
I was like, yeah, no, that's crazy. Nope. That's
Hey, you be like my
crazy written
friends.
all over that.
You be like my friends growing up with. I got friends that 18 years old had kids, and now the kids in damn college, and they're my age, 40, 41, and they're out living their life. No worries, no cares. I mean, they got bills and they got jobs, and obviously worry about your kids every day of their life. But man, they out here living it up. They living like they're 20 again, and here we are still going to little league games and you know putting kids to bed. Matter of fact, here's a funny story. So my son, we call him hashtag can't look Carter, and he got that name because he loved to be chased, and when you would chase him, anybody anything would chase him, he'd turn around, he'd be running and turn around looking behind him. And so I called him Can't Look Carter because he'd be running in his shit all the time. So anyway, Can't Look Carter, 3rd grade, he does his homework last week. And they get to a question, and it's something about, make a sentence rhyming your name. He goes, my name is Carter, it rhymes with farter, and I'm a big farter. And I thought it was funny as hell. And so I was like, yeah, boy, yeah, I approve, send it in. Today, we get a little message from his teachers. And they're like, Carter had a hard time reading this in class or something, which made me think that he had a hard time actually reading it, but I was mistaken. Anyway, they get down to the end, it's like, yeah, and his last sentence, he says some words that weren't really appropriate for 3rd grade to read out in front of the class, and he was trying to get a laugh. And he said, y'all, my wife, the beardess, and me, helped him with his homework. My wife texts me and goes, ha, did you see the message? You're in trouble with the teachers again. I said, yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll handle it. So I wrote him back. I said, yeah, that was on me. I approved that one. And I'd be damned if they didn't send me another message later, like scolding me about the appropriate language for 3rd grade in the classroom.
Because he said farter?
Yeah, twice.
Oh my God.
Look, I'm okay with that. I talked to him tonight. I said, I heard your teachers had a little bit of problem with you rhyming. And he was, he didn't know if he was in trouble or not. I said, it's okay, man. I approved it. It's all right. I got in trouble for it. You're good. But man, you got to let the kids be free, especially a kid that has sometimes, has some problems socializing and he gets a laugh out of the class, be a little class clown. I was growing up. You see how that got me?
Still are.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on a podcast. I'm on a semi-successful, crappy-ass podcast. And now I get to come on really good podcasts like Bass Kayak and Beers because I was a class clown in school. That don't quell creativity. If y'all teach, let your kids be creative. Don't put them in a little box and make them all act the same. Let the ones going to be creative. And, if they interrupt the class, that's one thing. But if they're going to be creative, you let them be creative. I want to see how many times I can say creative the rest of this podcast.
We'll do for our listeners. Well, some of them are driving. So if you're not driving, you're home. Take a shot.
Start
every
making
time.
some tick marks. Oh, shot. Well, for Bass and Brews, the drinking games come in when I say I was a wildland firefighter. So there's one drink, but I'm not sure we'll get too far into that. Even though you are in wildland fire territory out there in Tejas, I mean,
we had one a couple of years ago on the Possum Kingdom. Bless you. I'm surprised this year wasn't that bad. I thought it was going to be like, there's going to be some crazy wildfires this year.
There was a big one down in Louisiana the last couple of weeks.
It's been dry, man. Now it's raining,
and hot. Yeah, dry and hot. Y'all kind of got lucky skirting some wildfires.
Yeah, no, we did. You would see what I did see a lot was those that grass in between highway lanes. One going southbound. So you see, I would see a lot of those. Those caught on fire a lot.
Yeah, usually it's from people dragging chains. Like a lot of people think flicking cigarette butts out, even though that shit is terrible. Don't do it. It's littering. But Texas is one of the few places where a cigarette butt can start a fire because of how tinderbox the grass is and how hot it is. But typically when you flick that cigarette out. But a lot of your roadside fires that start are from chains dragging, is from what that comes from. So check your chains.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I thought
majority are from chains.
I know a lot of them also start with broken glass, which people don't really realize. So when people throw out a beer bottle, you throw it out, it breaks. So those little pieces of like glass turns into magnifying glass if the sun hits them right at that spot. I think a lot of it, that starts fires too.
Yeah, they can. I mean, especially where you are, in Texas, where it was 120 degrees for like the whole month of July and half August.
June was already in the hundreds this year.
Yeah, we had
3 months of 100-degree weather, man. It was nuts.
Our fishing in June was awesome because it was not crazy hot. But boy, did it make for it in July and August. It got nasty out here.
Yeah. It's funny because I did caught some big ones. I mean, I caught them deep, but I think it was more of a product of me changing my style. more than anything. It's because it got so hot that I didn't feel like running gunning. So I was more of like, for no other reason than just to stay hydrated and not die. I'm just gonna pick a spot and break it down. So I lead a lot of drop shotting, and I'm trying to get some footage to make a YouTube video out of it to talk about drop shotting because man, I was killing it on hot summer days with the drop shot. I mean, it was, and I hooked into some big ones this summer.
Hey,
The few times that I got out, though.
a lot of people associate drop shotting with catching a lot of small fish, but I've caught some big fish.
Yeah.
From the tournament side, though, my local tournaments here, the last 2 years, if it wasn't for drop shot, I wouldn't be where I was last year. I had a really good year this year. We got a tournament, our last regular season tournaments this weekend. I cannot fish it, but I'm sitting third AOI on one of our local tournament trails. I'll probably get bumped down to fourth if the couple guys below me fish. If they do well, I'll go down. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, I put some money in the bank and had a good year because of that drop shot, because I was able to go out, and when it got tough and I needed 2 or 3 more fish, I was catching fish on that drop shot. And 2 years ago, I never even fished it. I didn't even know how to tie the drop shot on. I didn't know how to tie the leader. I didn't know how to do nothing. And then got my ass beat in a couple tournaments with it, went out and bought my stuff and started fishing it. I love it. I have a drop shot rig combo that goes with me every time I fish, and I have a shaky head combo that goes, and that's the only two things those combos are for. I do not leave the house without them.
Yeah, I've gone to that, and while you're talking, I'm trying to find a picture from Instagram. My first big bass was on a drop shot before I had a kayak, before I had, I was only doing bag fishing, and I didn't have a weight scale, although it was a post
That's when you was
spawner.
running around with that old tackle box when you were growing up.
Yeah,
we talked about that on a couple podcasts. You still had the old tackle box that opened up into the accordion.
My mom brought me that from Puerto Rico. That was grew up, and I still I had a fluorocarbon 20-pound fluorocarbon, which was almost all eating up because of moisture, and I also had a Carolina rig, which was with split shots. It was like 20 split shots. I didn't even remember that. My mom would tell me I must have been like 5 or 7 years old. She used to say, or she still says, that I would, on Sundays, I would get up really early in the morning, tune in some ESPN outdoor magazine show that they would have on, and I would just get my rod and my tackle box and just watch I don't even remember what the show was. I'm assuming it was some outdoor magazine show that they used to have back in ESPN. I mean, back in '84, I think it was.
Damn, '84. You are, see, now you're really telling your age.
Yeah, no, 49 years old, man. So let me share the screen. So this is the one that I got on the drop shot. For those that are watching the pre-recorded live show, I don't even know how big this is. It was really no,
that's what she said.
it was a big, look at that bucket mouth. It was a drop shot minnow.
Man, if that was a spoon fish, right? that's
I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to see.
Look at that mouth.
Yeah, holy no, it was. I couldn't even get it. Fish. I couldn't even get it in the frame.
Did you take it home and eat it? Nope. No. There you go. There's the release.
That's
a big fish.
Yeah.
But look how handsome you look out there fishing in your soccer jersey too. Your Qatar soccer jersey.
Anyway, so it's for those that are watching on the live show. So yeah, that was on the drop shot, man. That's the biggest bass I've ever caught. I'm assuming, because I never got to measure it or weigh it. But it had to be something like 23 or 24 inches. It's humongous.
You in the one of the land of giants for bass fishing.
Yeah. I'm blessed on that part. Like my wife would ask me, "You think you ever move out of Texas?" I'm like, I don't know. I love bass fishing too much. Like, where am I going to go that has this quality of bass? I thought maybe Florida.
Yeah, you could go to Florida, but if you think about it though, you're retired now, so you can be a reverse snowbird. And no, that's not a sexual position, but a reverse snowbird. So snowbirds in Florida and well, just the South in general now, probably got them in Texas too. These folks that
Heck
live
yeah.
up in like Wisconsin and Minnesota and New York and
Yep.
Maine and all those cold states in the wintertime, they come down here where the weather's nice. Go back up to the north where the weather's nice in the summer. You could like live in Texas and Florida in the winter and catch big fish, and then you could go up north to New York and Pennsylvania and catch
That's what I did
30-pound.
this year. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
only
catch
for a week.
30-pound bags, catch 30-pound bags of smallmouth all summer. You could just be catching 30-pound bags all year. Yeah, I am really, really jealous that you got to go fish with Cat Mandy.
Oh, Captain Andrews from Serious Angler.
Mm-hmm.
He messaged me today, but I don't know what he's. How do you
I don't
understand
know
his message?
his post today. So I have some of these buddies of mine, and I'm going to make a point here. He probably messaged you today because he also made a post said that this was the worst day fishing he had forever. And so I have buddies that'll text me for fishing when they had a really shitty fishing outing or tournament, and I always say that they're messaging me and want to talk to me to make themselves feel better about themselves because they know that I catch small fish and I don't do good either. So he was probably messaging you to make him feel better about himself for not fishing good because he thinks you don't fish as good as he does.
He's a great angler, man. Got to fish with
Don't
him.
whoa. I'm trying to tell you he messaged you because he wanted to feel better about himself. Don't you pump him up after that. You talk shit. Yes, he sucked today. I'm just kidding. Yeah, he can put you on him up there in New York now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anybody going up to New York, go check out Captain Andrew Full Guide Service on Instagram.
Did you take up your own rigs or did you
No,
use
I
the
just
stuff
I
he
just flew
provided?
there. I just took my foster son, which they're back with their mom though. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the daughter got married this weekend, or this past 2 weekends ago, but he's back with his mom. So he
Hey,
turned 18, got his driver's license. So I told him, let's go. Graduated from high school. It's like, let's go fishing. He loves fishing, so we took him up there.
nice.
And he had a blast. He never caught smallmouth bass before, so
I've only caught one. It was about 3 inches long on the Savannah River a long time ago. I would say a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago now. It's the only one I've ever caught. Tell me this: you fish with Captain Andrew, and he has some nice gear. Did you use any of his gear and start making a list of shit you need to buy when you got back home? This
no,
is good.
because it's the same thing I use here.
See,
I
you
can't.
rich folk. I tell you what, you rich folk just all the time using good stuff.
I mean, I don't think it's good stuff. It's just try to get the good deals. I mean, thankfully Douglas rods, because they're
Hmm.
amazing rods and they really help me out with the rod. So that saves me thousands of dollars right there, just having that
Hmm.
tournament quality rods to help my fishing experience. So, and once that's funny. One of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand when I started fishing, I thought a rod was a rod, a reel was a reel. Man, you get spoiled with good equipment, like a good rod. I couldn't go back to the Walmart brand, not Walmart brands, but the rods that I would buy at Walmart. I can't go to that. The ugly, no offense, but the ugly sticks and all that, those things weigh like a ton. I remember the most expensive rod I bought before going in, getting sponsored by Douglas Rods, was the Abu Garcia Veritas reel, and I bought a big swim bait rod. 7 foot 11 inches, heavy or extra heavy.
Yeah,
That thing
extra
is like
heavy.
a broomstick.
That's
And
right.
then I got the Douglas version of their version of the big swim bait. And it's the same size. It can actually cast like a four ounce heavier than the Abu Garcia Veritas, and it weighs like 1/4 of the
Hmm.
of what that broomstick from Abu Garcia. And I'm not dissing on it. Like it's a $400 rod versus a $125 rod, which was what the Veritas cost at that time. So it's I'm not saying it's a bad rod, but what my point is, you can tell the difference between like $100 rod and a $400
Well,
rod,
the
and you
last
get
episode
spoiled by that.
Yeah, the last episode you had me on, we had the
Oh yeah,
discussion
we
of
went that rabbit
rods.
hole. Yeah.
So we're not going to go down into that again. But what it comes down to with anybody that's fishing, you buy whatever the hell you can afford.
Yeah.
That the best that you can afford. And you know what? If it's an ugly stick, then you're gonna grow up using that, realizing what a bite is, and then one day you're gonna buy that 200, 250, $300 rod, and you're gonna be like, holy shit, man, I
And
can feel everything down here now.
to prove the point, my PB, the one that I shared on the share screen, that 24-inch bass was on the ugly stick drop shot. I mean, that thing weighs a lot. Like I could cast that maybe a couple of times before my arm goes dead, but it was on the ugly stick. So I
I
can't knock them.
All my ultralight stuff is ugly stick because you can beat the hell out of it.
That's
There
true.
is no
That's true.
rod on the market that takes a beating like an
That's true.
ugly stick. Growing up, I had a couple ugly sticks, and I would go catfishing with some buddies at Santee Cooper, and I had Abu Garcia clicker reel. I don't even know what the hell it is. It's over here, but I can't get it out because all my old rods are tangled up. But I would take off my Lew's BB1 NG8 that I have for bass fishing off of whatever. I still got the rods right here. Again, I can't look at it. But anyway, it was an ugly stick. We go to leave for Santee Cooper, and one of the guys closes the tailgate and he slams it, and he looks over and he looks at me, goes, "Oh shit, man, I'm sorry." I'm like, "Oh, what happened?" And he points, and the ugly stick, like 4 inches of it sticking out the tailgate. He slammed my ugly stick in the tailgate.
And it still was
Yeah,
fine.
we opened it up. It's still fine. I still got the rod. I've caught fish on it. It still hadn't broke, man.
Yeah.
Those things are absolute tanks, and they're
Yeah.
great for kids. You can beat the hell out of them. They got a lot of flex on them. They're fun to fish with on the ultralight side. So all my ultralights are ugly sticks.
Yeah, no, they're very durable. That they are. Definitely are. But anyways, so going back to my intro, have you ever got shot at on the
I,
water, or
I
maybe for any other reason?
I have not, but the lakes I do fish around here, there's state lands surrounded by them, so they're not lakes that people live on. And there's been gunshots that have been fairly close, and I'm sitting here going, shit, which way they pointing them things?
Yeah.
I'm listening for whistles and looking for some water pops, but I've never had any that I thought were directed at me on purpose or not on purpose. But man, there have been some gunshots that my SA went up a lot. I started being like, oh shit, what the hell's going on here? They made me jump in my kayak. No, they startled me. But no, I had never had anybody throwing some semi-automatic fire 100 yards from me down from the bank. That'd be pretty sporty.
Yeah. No, that would, and it's God, it's crazy as it sounds. It's not the first time I've been well, in this case I wasn't shot at. Like I really don't think they were trying to shoot at me. They was just trying their machine guns. They didn't know I was there. I did actually got in the middle of a drive-by shot with machine guns. Like I was running for my life.
Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico. So I used
boy.
When I was 18 years old, I thought it would be cool to hang out with the wrong crowd at the wrong place. And I used to hang out in the bad part of neighborhood with some of the friends that did a lot of illegal stuff because I thought it was cool.
It was
and
fun.
Yeah. And I mean they keep it real. And we were just at the corner. It was right in a really bad neighborhood. It was like 10 p.m. We're just at the corner talking. And this is how bad the neighborhood. At the end of that street, there's a police station. We were right in the middle of the street. So at the end, on one side of the police station, on the other side, the street ended or started, depending on your vantage point, at the main avenue of the neighborhood. So the car, black Grand National, I remember to this day, stopped at a corner. It must have been like 2 or 3 guns came out of that car and started shooting at us. Apparently, they were looking for one of the guys we were talking. There was 4 of us talking amongst ourselves, and one in particular, I think, there was a hit out for him, and they started firing at us, like where I was. Like you could see, like when the gunshot hit the grass, you can see the grass just popping up. Um, I've never been so scared. So
Look,
I got caught in the middle of a drive-by. Thankfully I didn't get shot. The buddy of mine, who was again, that's not who they were targeting. He got one shot on each leg.
mm,
Thankfully, it didn't get any main arteries, but we had to rush him to the hospital.
mm.
Actually, the police rushed to the hospital because this guys didn't care. Like I'm telling you, this gangbangers, they don't care. They were firing at us, knowing that half a block away there's a police station. That's how bad the neighborhood was. And sure
That
enough, when the police came out, they saw my friend that got shot at. They put him on the police car, took him to the hospital. So it's not my first time.
there ain't many things in this world that will make you rethink
Oh yeah,
what you're doing at the moment than getting shot at.
yeah,
I was a police officer for a little while and never got shot at, but man, that's know a lot of people who have been, know a lot of folks in the military that have been shot at with guns all the way up to rockets, and that's that that's one of those things in your life you'll never. I didn't get shot at, but this does remind me of a story when I was playing football. I was in the 10th grade, and this is the PD region of South Carolina. So if you look at the map of South Carolina, you look up at the top northeast corner, that's the PD region. So it covers Hartsville, Florence, all the way to Myrtle Beach. Everybody knows about Dirty Myrtle. We were at a football game at Timmonsville High School, and I don't know, it was a second quarter maybe, somewhere in there. I can't remember what quarter it was. But all of a sudden, we hear people screaming. All of a sudden, and you see all the Timmonsville players starting to run and jump and hide. They're behind the little yard markers, and there's a little hill they behind.
yeah.
In my little school, we from back B. When we hear gunshots, we out there deer hunting, duck hunting, or dove hunting. And they're like, man, y'all better get y'all's asses down. That's gunshots. And so we were all diving down beside those guys. And sure as shit, they had a fight in the damn parking lot out behind the stadium, and people started shooting guns. Man, we had to get on the bus, and they made us all lay down in the bus under these seats, and police escort out and stuff. I started catching cramps, and I'm wedged in the seats. It was terrible, but yeah, I never got none of the bullets have ever actually gotten towards me.
Yeah, well, good. That's good. It'll change your life. After that, there's no speech my dad or my mom could have made me to help me understand my ignorance, but a couple of guns pointing at you and firing at you, and it was at night. You can see the flash coming out of the car, and you can see like the grass popping. Yeah, that's gonna mature you a lot. That's when I realized, yeah, maybe this is not the life that for me. maybe my dad's right. There's nothing cool about this. Let's get out of here.
Let's roll. It's time to let me go do something. Let me go start surfing.
Let me go fishing. I should go fishing.
Yeah,
that's actually when I
got shot at 25 years later.
Full circle. Actually, I got into surfing back then. That's when I got into surfing.
So was your surfing experience like crap? I can't remember the name of the movie now with Boz.
North Shore.
No, is it Blue Ocean? Hold on, what was it? Hold on, let me see what it was.
Endless Summer.
No, it was you were like 40 years old when this came out back in 2002, I think it was.
Oh, that's the one with
Kate Bosworth. Kate Bosworth movies. Let me see. This
shark?
it was Lord, it was so bad it's not even popping up on her movies.
Had to do with sharks?
No, people right now are saying it. There we go. Blue Crush. Kate Bosworth is when all the NFL players, when they used to go to Hawaii for the Pro Bowl, and they were surfing, and she was a surfer. So was that the surfing scene in Puerto Rico? Was it like the Southern California or the Hawaiian island Blue Crush surf scene?
Like that movie was so bad I forgot I saw it. That's how bad that movie was. I thought you were gonna say, man, that's a good kind of slash surfing movie. Point Break.
Yeah, no,
that's a good one.
This was like 10 years after Point Break.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a good one. That was a good one. for
No, I
sure.
mean
That
surfing.
was one of Keanu's best movies right there, baby.
Yeah, I agree. You think a lot of
And I
people
call you baby
don't
on
get this?
purpose.
That was
I
the
love you, man.
original. When you look at the Fast and Furious franchise, like the
Hmm.
first Fast and Furious was a carbon copy of Point Break. The vessel was cars because that's what it was in versus back in what I don't know in the 90s. I think that's when Point Break came out. It was surfing, right?
Like 92. This is the
Yeah.
early 90s.
So but it's you think about the vessel. One was the vessel for the storyline was fishing. I mean surfing,
Surfing.
and the other one was racing cars. You check those two things, and it's a carbon copy, the same exact movie. It is the same exact movie.
Except there's like 35 Fast and Furious now.
Yeah, except for that. Yeah, they turned out they knew when to quit with Point Break.
So you're saying that they should have quit Fast and what movie should they have ended Fast and Furious?
After the first one,
You think so?
I mean the other ones, I'll give them credit for this. They I'm sort of a movie buff. I love criticizing movies. I love criticizing acting scenes and all that, and breaking down scenes for movies because I love movies. So one thing I do give Fast and Furious a tip of the hat is they understand what they are. You know, when you understand what you are, then you are free to make that movie. You're free to be yourself. If you take, they never, Fast and Furious, they were like, yeah, we're not this serious movie. We're this absolutely over the top, almost comedic movie with a lot of like heart in family and in the characters. So they were able to develop characters that you cared for. Toretto and Paul, forgot the name of his character, Paul Walker, right?
Yeah,
That's the
Paul
name of that
Walker.
actor who died in the
I can't
accident.
remember his name. Brian. I can't remember his
Right,
last
yeah.
name, but Brian.
So you there was a connection where you felt like emotionally attached to these characters. They did a good job of that, even though both of them are not great actors. But then at the same time, you understand that the action is going to be over the top and ridiculous, and it's not going to make sense, and it's going to defy the laws of physics. So as long as you, as a director, understand that's what it is, you're free to make that movie. As long as you find that little pocket where you don't coming out as taking yourself too seriously, but you're not over the top where it's way too comedic now.
So
Like
they
in
knew,
that sense,
yeah,
they've been successful.
they knew what they were.
Yeah,
Fast cars, explosions, and entertainment. Like
yeah.
put fast cars, explosions. They were entertainment. And another one that preceded that, maybe it was after first. I don't remember. But Snakes on a Plane, and this will relate to you since
Exactly.
you were
They
a flight
understand what they
attendant.
were. Yeah.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson was doing interviews with Snake on a Plane, and people thought this was going to be like like kind of like a dramatic movie. And he starts doing these interviews after it drops, and people realize like this was an over the top movie that they knew. I'm sick and tired of motherfucking snakes on the motherfucking plane. What would you do if you had a snake outbreak on one of your planes that you were on? What would you have done?
I
Would you have
think
been a
there's
hero, or would you have been the guy hiding in the bathroom getting eaten by some kind of exotic venomous snake coming up from the toilet?
I don't know. That's a scenario that I have to be there
Do you
for
like
me.
snakes? You live in Texas.
I will find out a lot about myself.
You
I
live in
like to
Texas. There's a lot of snakes. When you
I
see a
used to love
snake, do
I
you
love
go up
snakes.
to it and you talk to it
Yeah.
and want to pet it and hold it? Okay. So you
I
could have been
mean,
a hero
I
in
used to
Snakes on a
have pet
Plane.
snakes. Like I used to have like those
Oh,
ball
well, shit. There we
pythons.
go. Mm-hmm.
So I love rap. I every year I would take either my foster son when he was living with us. Again, he's back with his mom for a few years now. And his friends uh to the reptile show here in Texas. Oh, they loved it. And the reptile show in Texas, if you've ever been there, is two shows in one. You get to see the reptiles and you take to see the creeps and the people that love him. That's two shows. My wife goes just to watch the people. She's like, I cannot believe we leave my mom. Like, this is like an episode of like a movie, Men in Black. You know, when those aliens come out with those.
It's real life Tiger King, except for snakes,
Exactly.
reptiles.
You see the weirdest people on this. Like, yeah, you got 2 shows in one.
Hey, I got a great movie idea. We got to
Go ahead.
figure out who to talk to when you have lunch money on, because he knows a lot of people in this industry. We need a Bass and Furious, like folks in bass boats, like stealing other bass boats, or folks in bass boats cutting other people off and actually fighting on the water and shit like
Didn't
that.
Jessica
We need a Bass and
Paul
Furious movie
Paul Walker
centered
made that
around,
movie as well.
huh?
Paul Walker made that movie as well with
Made
Jessica Alba. Remember that movie? I forgot the name of that movie.
a fishing movie?
Not fishing. It had to do a lot with power boats. They were looking for some treasure.
Yeah, I ain't talking about that shit. I'm talking about Bass and Furious. Bass
Oh,
boats, bass fishing. Bass, BASS, and Furious. Bass fishing.
Oh, Bass and Furious.
We need a Bass, BASS, and Furious movies. That's what the hell we need. Somebody needs to make Bass and Furious. So we take Fast and Furious and we throw away the cars and we throw away the pretty boys and we have a bunch of dumbass bass anglers out there, Bass and Furious on the water. No, we can't do kayaks because that shit's too boring. Fishing is already boring enough. We don't need to add in boring ass kayak fishing. We need fast bass boats and people doing crazy stuff on there. Like, it's just think Fast and Furious, except we need it Bass and Furious.
I would figure if there ever was a movie about bass fishing, it would be kind of like Talladega Nights.
Yes, you're exactly right. I could not make a better analogy, but yes, it would be
Talladega
like
Nights would be-
except
That's one of my favorite comedies.
I don't think they could ever make a what would we call it? So Talladega Nights, we would call it Bassmaster Classic After Midnight.
It would be
It would probably turn into a porno. That's the only way anybody would ever watch it because fishing's boring as hell.
What do you think about? Speaking of boring, so I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I would have probably talked about this. I say it in past tense because this episode is airing after I have Ryan Lambert on, but I haven't had Ryan Lambert on, so past it. So that's kind of like weird, tearing the fabric of time and space kind of thing. But anyways,
confusing the shit out of me right now.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'm probably going to talk to Ryan Lambert about this, and the episode is going to be aired before this one. So anyways, what's your thoughts on the whole forward-facing sonar thing?
For fishing, it's great.
Yeah,
it really is. The problem that we have with fishing in general, and I'll tie this into your question, is that people find it boring because they're just sitting there looking at a screen fishing. But if you just take fishing in general and you take away forward-facing sonar, they're still just out there casting and reeling in a lure. It's still boring. I mean, like, there's nothing exciting. Now, if you're out there fishing a whopper popper, some kind of top water bait, and yanking their heads off and getting these big old blow-ups, that's a different thing. But if you've ever sat down and watched a whole MLF or bass fishing tournament, but even as somebody who loves bass fishing, it is boring. It's 8 hours of people sitting on a boat, and sometimes it can be interesting. But you think about what people say is the most boring in the fishing industry, and they lend it to the northern lakes where they're just yanking, 3 and 4 pound smallmouth out one after the other. They're catching big fish, and they're catching them a lot. And people call that the most boring part of bass fishing. And now they blame forward-facing sonar, but in general, they're catching big fish and they're catching a lot of them. That should be the most interesting damn thing out of the whole fishing part of it. But the forward-facing sonar, to me, though, is the biggest game changer. And people throw that term around a lot, but there's only been a few. Matter of fact, on our episode I did with Trevor Lowe, we actually talked about this very briefly was that him and I said that the biggest game changer that to happen in the last 10 years of bass fishing, probably the last 20, was actually spot lock. Because if you've ever tried to use forward facing sonar without spot lock, it is damn near impossible. It is hard. Wind blowing is or not. It's difficult. Spot lock makes forward facing sonar fishing way easier. It
Oh yeah.
makes even without forward facing sonar, at least you can drop some buoys and hit spot lock and be able to make the same cast over and over. So it's just it's out there. It's technology. You got a lot of old ass people fishing that don't like technology. They don't understand it. They use an excuse it's too expensive, but they just went out and spent $2,500 on rod reels and lures, but buying a piece of technology for facing sonar is too expensive. You got all these excuses that go into it, and it's just because you have a older age group that is the majority of your anglers out there that just can't grasp it. They can't grasp the technology. They don't want to. They feel like it's cheating because they don't understand technology, and it's hard to learn. Everybody thinks forward face sonar makes you an instant great angler. And does it help? Yes. We got some guys on my local trail that have it, and they have done really well with it over the last 2 years. They'll be the first ones to tell you that they're doing good because of forward facing. But you still have to put the damn time into it. I can't tell you. I probably know just as many people that have bought it and sold that shit a year or two later because they just could not figure it out. It was a pain in the butt. They couldn't figure it out. And they're like, the hell with it. I'm going to go back to what I do. So it's just it's fishing. Fishing is a bitching sport. All people do is whine and complain, especially tournament fishing, right? Let's gear it towards tournament fishing. All the people do is whine and complain. And this is just the thing that's out there that has changed fishing the last 5 years so much. It's the thing that is the easiest. It's the most polarizing. There's not a lot of people in the middle. I'm in the middle. Actually, I'm not. See, I'm not. I'm a middle road guy, but I love it. I think it's great. I don't have it. I want it. But it's so polarizing, and we know through polarization of people's opinions, that's where the fun is when somebody is really geared up about one thing or not geared up about it, they're going to butt heads and they're going to be throwing shit back and forth. And so it's just the thing right now that's out there that is the forefront of fishing that get people riled up.
But I wanted to touch on a couple of things you mentioned. First of all, um, and I don't disagree with anything you're saying. And again, I've said this on the podcast before, and I probably say with Ryan when I'm talking to Ryan Lambert about this. I'm not against it. I personally don't care. I would rather, for my own growth, not use forward facing sonar right now, uh, so I can be a better fisherman. Because, and I'm going back to the point that you mentioned. Um, you mentioned something. Okay, well, it's going to help your game once you learn how to use it, and that's a great point, because now it becomes, okay, so am I learning how to fish, or am I learning how to use this apparatus to catch fish? Because I think that's a part of the conversation not a lot of people talk about. And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not peddling one answer over another and one point of view over another, but it is a good talking point when you say, well, once you learned how to use it, okay, so that means you're not, are you really learning how to fish, or are you really learning how to use this equipment to catch fish? Because that's two different things, though.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
All right. The forward facing sonar makes you a better angler because you get to see fish behavior on structure related to the lures you're throwing at it, or just watching forward facing sonar and watching fish attack a bait ball. You're getting to learn fish behavior by using that. So if you get somebody that is, let's take, take anybody that's great at forward facing sonar. You take that away from them and you give them side imaging and down imaging. All right. And they start to locate fish, because a lot of folks are still locating the fish
Yeah.
primarily through side imaging before they dial them in on the forward facing. But if you have these people that are really, really good at forward facing, they understand fish behavior. And so you can give them side imaging and put them in the in a lake, and they can find these fish on side imaging. And you hear pros talk about this a lot with side imaging, or you did before forward facing, how they could look at fish on side imaging and down imaging and see if those fish are ready to bite. And so if you took away forward facing sonar from these folks, they can still locate those fish. And with the knowledge that they've gained through fish behavior of forward facing sonar, then they understand how to fish those fish efficiently. So they can look at them on side on side imaging and say, all right, these don't look like they're set up, but I'm going to throw these things at them because when it's set up like this with forward facing, I know this is what they bit and they can do it. Now, would they be more efficient? No. They might stay at that spot longer than they would with forward facing, but they can still catch those fish because they're relating to how they set up and how they're biting, what they're biting, because they've learned through the fish behavior on forward facing. That's the biggest thing forward facing does, is we can now have a real time view of how the fish are reacting to lures, how they're reacting to the bait that's around them, how they're reacting to the structure that they're on. And so for me, it's the fish behavior. The really good ones at forward facing sonar understand the fish behavior. And you can take that knowledge and transition it to fishing in general without forward facing sonar. So to me, it's the learning the fish behavior is the biggest thing. The biggest Sam, remix. I can't talk. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. I've repeated myself 18
It's the
times.
biggest factor
Yeah, exactly. Biggest
in
factor
your
is learning
improvement.
that fish behavior. I mean, that's
So
what it comes down to, because up until forward facing, we never knew what the hell fish were doing on the bottom, at least in the south in our lakes, because they ain't clear enough to see 30 feet down like they are up north. But for down here, we didn't really know how fish behaved. Everything was anecdotal for us as anglers in murky and dirty water. And fishing is still 90%, 99% anecdotal. But now you have some stuff to start to relate that's anecdotal, but you actually saw real life fish. I mean, we're after something that we typically can't see, and we don't know what they're doing. So I mean, you get a lot of information from that shit, from being able to see that fish behavior.
so if I'm understanding what you're saying is like you learn how to use these equipment, this technology, and by learning how to use the technology, now you can understand what you're seeing, and therefore it's gonna have an impact on your growth as an angler.
See, that's why for the last 10 minutes of me talking almost, you put it down into like 5 seconds of beautifulness. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So it's interesting, yeah, because it's now like you're focused on learning the technology, and by learning the technology, that opens the door to you learning how to fish instead of just going out there and try different things. It's an interesting point too, in the sense that when we're bed fishing, right, we're sight casting. We see
Mm-hmm.
what the bass is doing when that bait lands
Exactly.
on its nest. Oh, he doesn't mind that color, or this color he doesn't like, or this type of presentation he doesn't like.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no difference between sight fishing and
That's right.
forward facing sonar live
None.
imaging. So
See,
it's really
side
not a
note, hold on.
difference.
Let me interrupt you, because that's what the hell I do. But let me interrupt you. Guys, if you're listening to this podcast, y'all been listening a long time. This is how you know you got a good podcast host, because he takes all the nonsense and gibberish that somebody like me just rambled on for a long time and probably lost everybody, and he's able to rein it in into something that's coherent. And you do a good job at that, man. And I'm very lucky to have you that brought this rein this in. I'm gonna have to go and clip this out so that next time I talk about this, I'm just going to read it off of a piece of paper, so that way I don't take up 10 minutes of time for people to go, what the fuck is he talking about, when I'm done? Because Armando just summed it up perfectly. Great job, Armando. Proud of you.
I ruined that for you. I'm sorry.
No, you
There
didn't
you
ruin
go.
nothing. You helped me out. You made me sound intelligent. That's what happened. You took a dumbass and made him sound intelligent.
So I think the other conversation that this has is like, it doesn't matter what us as anglers, or in this case elite competitive anglers, think. it comes down to what the viewers think, because ultimately a lot of the money comes from viewership. And for those that maybe don't understand, um, and I don't mean to mansplain or anything like that, but basically, if people are not tuning in to watch the TV, the networks are
Hmm.
not going to get the companies to able to, if you don't have viewership, I'm turning into Paul Roberts right now. So if you don't have people tuning in, you don't have the ratings, then
You don't have revenue.
the
You're not
networks
making
can't
money.
go to the
Yeah.
companies and say, "Hey, we're
Right.
charging this for the commercial time." That's why the Super Bowl commercial is so expensive, because everybody tunes in. So if they're not getting the ratings, then they can't ask.
Hmm.
They're limiting the amount of money they're gonna spend, which means that they are gonna limit the amount of money they're gonna give to Bass,
Hmm.
and which means that Bass is going to be limited in the amount of money they're going to give to the payouts. That it's a trickle down effect. So it comes down to either, if and I don't know the answer to this, but it seems like this conversation has been spearheaded by the complaints about the classic this year. That, from what I've heard, I don't consider, first of all, I don't consider bass fishing a I don't consider bass. Yes, you're going to the bathroom. I heard you. I don't consider bass fishing a spectator sport. Just the same way I don't consider NASCAR a spectator sport. Like, the only reason why I'm interested in bass fishing is because I'm out there bass fishing. I'm not impressed by athletic ability like I would be watching an NBA game or you know Premier League soccer game, or any of those, high skill NFL, for another one that, kind of like shows out their athletic ability, and that's why people tune in, because you're impressed by it. So I don't get impressed by watching people fish. So therefore, for me, bass fishing is not a spectator sport. But I understand that a lot of people consider bass fishing, especially the elites and the MLF, a spectator sport for whatever reason. Maybe they get excited about somebody hooking into big bass, even though the show takes forever. Or they use that opportunity to learn how to fish. For whatever
Boom.
reason, for a lot of people, it's a spectator sport. Now, if those people that are tuning in are now bored at watching anglers watch a screen, and it's not doing it for them, they either, you have to like bar the use of live scope, or the network's gonna have to get more creative in how they present this product, and not focus so much on they're using the live scope kind of thing.
Yeah,
But at
and
the end of the day, it's the problem apparently is from viewership. If the
yeah,
ratings
yeah.
are being affected, then that's a problem. It's not as much the sonar, it's just people are not enjoying watching it.
I can't recall who said this, and I've heard it numerous times. Is the 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 MLF and Bass, if they can figure out how to put live scope screens in a
Don't they do that
box,
already?
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah, I
because
think I've seen a couple of clips. I
yeah.
don't
So
watch it live, but I've seen a couple
yeah,
of clips.
if they start, if they, if Jacob Wheeler's out there smacking a bunch of smallmouth on live scope, forward facing sonar, if you can put the forward facing sonar on there, and
Yeah,
he's
they do that.
fishing and he's telling you what he's doing, like that makes it interesting. And you said it a second ago too, is people, a lot of people are watching the pros fish because they want to learn.
Yeah.
What happens when a pro wins the classic on let's say on a particular lure? What happens to that lure? The sales go out the roof. You can't
Oh
find
yeah.
that damn lure for months and months and months. And you know what? That lure is probably not good, is only good in that lake, that time of year, and now it's gone. So people are using it as a learning experience to learn how to fish by watching the top people in the sport do it. So if they can bridge that gap by putting that stuff on there and then having the angler talk about what they're doing, because they already do it, right? When the angler's bed fishing and they're doing their bed fishing stuff, their little tricks and stuff, they're explaining it. People are going to go out the next day or the next weekend or next time they go fishing, and what are they going to try to do? They're going to try to replicate that on bed fishing. So if you can blend that with the forward facing sonar side, and now you got a bunch of people watching the show, and when they go out fishing, they're trying to replicate what that guy or those folks, those people who are using it on TV were doing, the pros. Then you kind of get people a little more intrigued. But the whole of it is the shit's still boring. Watching bass fishing is boring. I mean, it really
I
is.
agree.
I
I
love
mean, I
bass
enjoy
fishing,
it
but
when I was
I
5
don't.
years old.
Yeah, I don't. Every now and again I'll watch it if it's a lake that's close to me. If it's a lake maybe I'm going to, yeah, I'll watch it. But outside of that, I don't. It's
It's
fishing,
not a spectator sport.
boat
And again,
fishing
when
as
I
an
was five,
angler.
7 years
Oh,
old,
yeah,
I'm assuming, I don't remember. My mom would tell me I was probably watching still the outdoor magazine, where it's edited, where you're not watching like 8 hours
yeah.
of somebody caught 5 fish. It's like they edited in a way that shows you. And I
It's
think,
30
if I
minutes of
remember,
them
I think it was
catching
Bill
big
Dance that I
fish,
used to watch, which was
and yeah,
had the whole comedic relief behind it as
right.
well. That's the other thing about watching Bill Dance. But when it comes to kayak tournaments, I don't think that kayak on the national side, like the Hobie BOS, the Native Bass Power Hour, and the Bassmaster Bass Nation Kayak Series, should ban them. But I think local clubs have to weigh that option a little bit more, because in a local club, the entry fee is not 250, not 270, which is, I think, something that's where kind of Hobie is right now, the BOS. So their entry fee is like $50, $60, maybe $100. So it's more catered to blue collar guys that can't afford a boat, can't afford a kayak, but not a boat. But guess what? They maybe can't afford, most of them, not going to afford a forward facing sonar. So if your top guys are always winning AOI, always landing in the morning, always have forward facing sonar, how big of your growth is going to be on your local trail? Because a lot of what I think sometimes is going to happen is a lot of people are going to get discouraged. Like, I can't shell out $6,000-$7,000 on a forward facing sonar, so why am I doing this tournament thing? We're talking about grassroots local club or trail in
Yeah,
your neighborhood. I'm not talking about the national stuff
yeah.
on
I
kayak
would
fishing.
say, especially on the kayak fishing side, is a lot of your folks that consistently come out, but not necessarily never win or are never in the money. They It's fun
Yeah.
when you come to it on a local side, and I'll say this in kayak or in bass boat fishing, is a lot of folks are just coming out to have a good time and fish. And you know what? If they're going to come out on Saturday and fish anywhere anyway, they're going to throw their $50 or $60 in the pot and say, "Hey, maybe I get lucky and catch a fish, but if not, or win, but if not, I'm still going fishing that day. So why not go out there and at least put in for it, put in for big fish, and maybe I get one of those. Maybe I bring a little bit of jingle home." That's it, but that's the way that I look at the local side.
Yeah.
Is now, if you get the people that are serious about competing and they're pissed off because the same two or three or four guys are always in the top, and I will tell you from my experience here in the Carolinas, some of the people that are always in the top ain't always fishing with forward facing sonar. Anyway, those the people that are serious about it, that want to win, they're going to adapt and they're going to do what they have to do. They're either going to change how they fish or they're going to buy the shit. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
But the majority of your local clubs that have tournaments, the folks are going fishing anyway that Saturday. So why not go ahead and throw $50, $60, $40 in the pot? Go out there, fish like they were going to fish anyway, and maybe they win some money, maybe they don't, but they'll continue to come out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, I'm not making a case for either one of those, but
Yeah.
I think it's every side of the conversation should be talked about, because kind of understand what each
Yeah.
side looking at it. I don't like it when people just downplayed the you know the other opinions just because it's not your opinion.
Let me
Like,
ask
I
you
don't see
this.
the point. I don't see the point of banning forward facing or not. I
No,
don't
they ain't
have
gonna
one.
ban it.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't think less of you because you are competing with forward facing sonar. I do think I do give props to people that are consistently winning like Jordan Marshall, which before he got forward facing sonar, he consistently
But
was
he
in the
he
top
still
10.
hardly damn uses it.
Exactly. So
He's got it. He still hardly uses
I
it.
do give props to them. But I mean, I'm not gonna look down at somebody using forward facing sonar, but I will look up to people that are actually winning those big trails, big tournaments without forward facing sonar. Heck, Jordan Marshall didn't even use any electronics. He just went what we
Last
call
year was
trash
kind.
fishing, back
I think
back
this
beater.
year is when he had one before and then he got rid of it. And I think this year was the first year that he actually put some money and time into the forward facing stuff. But think about it this way too, man. You think about a lot of the tournaments in the kayak scene and in the boat scene, they're chasing the spawn. That
Yeah,
early turns in the year, they're all chasing the spawn. So they're not necessarily a forward facing sonar
you're not
fishing
gonna win it
tournament.
with forward facing sonar if they're bed fishing.
And
Yeah,
even when they move up north, they're still chasing the spawn for a lot of those tournaments. And so the forward facing doesn't necessarily come into play a lot there. Now there are those tournaments in the middle of the summer that maybe in the early summer in the south where it's still hot as hell they are. But in general, a lot of those tournaments are still shallow water tournaments because it's pre-spawn, it's spawn, it's post-spawn.
yeah.
And so it doesn't play. Let me ask you this. So you've kind of been fishing since the A rig came about, since side imaging got big, and side imaging was going to ruin fishing. A rig was going to ruin fishing. Forward facing sonars here now. What do you think? And this could be, we don't know, right? We're not in the industry like this. What do you think might be the next forward facing sonar where in 2 or 3 years from now people are bitching and whining and fighting over something else? What do you think that might look like?
That it's interesting because I think about that a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I like, you know what, I don't want to use forward facing sonar right now because as good as people think it is, if you compare it to similar technologies on other not sports but other maybe work or stuff like that, that they use like radar type stuff. When you think about what the technology the armed forces, Navy, Army, Marines use, that type of technology that is 1,000 times more effective than
Well,
forward facing sonar.
yeah. Well,
So
all of this stuff has been around a lot longer than anglers have been
yeah,
using it. I mean,
so the next step of it is, yeah, you're gonna get such a clear image that
is it a video image?
you're gonna distinguish. You can tell, oh, this is a 12-inch bass. And some
Is it
people have gotten
you
good
can
enough to
already yeah,
tell,
you can already
but
do
they're
that.
gonna tell, okay, that's a bass. You can see like clear, like you're gonna be able to see like the eyes, the jawline,
So
the
video.
yeah, it's
So
gonna
do you
be
think we're
almost
gonna
a
have
video.
So do you think we're gonna have folks are gonna have a 25-inch screen on the front of
No,
their boat, and it's gonna look like me and you right now, a clear ass image, like underwater video
I'm gonna take it
footage,
a step
live
further.
footage that people can actually see the fish on a video, not some red dots and shit. I'm talking about video, like you see that fish through a
Have you seen?
video.
I'm gonna take it one step further. Have you seen the new VR headset for Apple that it hasn't come out yet? It's a prototype. Apple has been working. I like to watch techie stuff, and I've been following because virtual reality came out for Google a few years ago, right? I think it was Google. And
It's the Oculus
yeah,
was the first
Oculus
big
or
one.
something. I think it's Meta and something like that. You always notice Apple when they have like breakthrough technology, they don't rush it. They're like, no, we're gonna perfect it before it goes out. So if you've seen what Apple is bringing right now as their headset, that is next level. I could see, and it's not it. There has to be a certain demand for it, and it's not gonna happen. I think it'll happen in the next 5 years, maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 years. But you're gonna see where people are now gonna share screen what they're seeing on their graph to an actual virtual reality helmet, kind of like what Apple does. So
Hmm.
you're not gonna have this 25-inch screen. You're just gonna have this virtual reality glasses on you that you're gonna see everything through your virtual
And and look,
glasses.
all right. There's
I
two.
think
There's
that's where it's eventually gonna go.
okay. There's three things with that too. One is you can, and that would be really easy for the bass to put that on there. Where Jacob Wheeler's got a VR headset on and he's fishing and he's seeing this stuff through the VR, and you're looking at it real time with him through the goggles. We already see that in gamers now.
Yeah,
And the other two things is virtual reality and AR, augmented reality. I worked in the safety industry in 2018 in wearable technology, upstart company. And even in the safety field, virtual reality and augmented reality, VR and AR, have been incorporated into the safety field before that. I agree with you that one of those two things, I don't know if it's going to be the AR or the VR. So the VR is like the headset where you put it around and you're kind of like you're in a IMAX movie where you're seeing
yeah,
everything. The augmented reality, the AR is the glasses that you put on,
yeah,
and through the glasses you can see, instead of looking down at your screen to see the structure, is in those glasses, and it's giving
yeah.
you wind direction and this and that. I do think that that's the next step. I agree with you 100%. I think the next thing that comes out, I don't know when, but it's probably going to be some kind of AR or VR. And you know what? There's probably stuff already out there that they're testing. Certain people have
Yeah.
knowledge and are testing. And I think Alex Rudd has mentioned this a couple times with
Yes, he
AR
does. He has.
specifically. But yeah, I would say that that's probably the next thing that comes out. Where and to take it back, talking about the video, if we do come out with something where there's live video down there and you're seeing that, that's the point where I'm like, is that too much? Or is that another game changer? I don't know. It's interesting to see where it goes over the next 5 years, because technology right now is like light speed. I mean, a year, Garmin came out with the 34 um, thingy majiggy,
Yeah.
and it's 100 times better than anything out on the damn market. And that was just 2 years ago. And they
Yeah.
came out with it last year, and people are like, this is insane. It blows everything else out the water.
To your point of like, when is it gonna be too much? So incremental changes, when you have small incremental changes and not necessarily a big leap, that's where nothing is wrong. Nothing is like too far, because this changes have been so incremental that you get used to it. You get used to it, and now you get somebody that went into a coma 20 years ago and wakes up 10 years ago, doesn't go through those incremental changes, go from like, we didn't have electronics, so now we have augmented reality glasses to help me catch a fish. So you see, to that person, that's going to be like, oh, that's way too far. It's never going to go too far, because the changes are small and incremental until everything becomes okay and it's not too far.
All right. So what I want to see is a virtual reality headset with a specific lure and a
I scared you
specific
with that coming on
combo,
society, didn't I?
a combo. And when you see where you want to throw, where you see that where that fish is, and you want to throw this specific lure on this specific combo, you don't even have to cast anymore. You just point your combo, your rod and your reel out there. You hit the button, and it automatically throws it directly to that spot where that fish is. That's what we're going to see. Secondly, I do have a question that just popped into my head. This is a real life question. This kind of takes us off on a small tangent, but it's a real life question that I've been thinking about a lot, heavily a lot. How do you pee in your kayak? Because you got a Hobie, I got a Hobie. Do you stand up and pee over the edge, or do you pee into the drive hole?
Drive hole.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing it to the edge, but then I would get all my because sometimes it's cold. So only
And it's
you
windy.
just
And it's windy. It's a
it's
lot
windy.
easier to hit that drive hole when it's
Yeah,
windy.
yeah.
I,
It's a
I,
lot
you
easier to
know,
hit that drive hole.
I just think about that because I still see people that kneeling in their kayak, trying to tinkle in their kayak, kneeling, and I'm like, why?
If I'm close to the bank, I just get off and pee at the
Why?
bank.
But why get off the kayak? Every time you step off and back on that
Because there's
kayak,
always a chance you're gonna fall down.
That's exactly right. But if you just stand up in the kayak, no matter how close you are to the bank, and go tinkle, like you never have a chance of falling out. But every time that you put one
Yeah, you
foot on the
do.
bank, or in one foot, anytime you have one foot in the kayak and one somewhere else, the risk of you falling and tipping over is a lot higher than if you just stand up with both feet in the kayak.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm close to the bank, I just get off the bank. But sometimes I'm
That's
not,
wasted
or the
motion.
bank is not accessible. Maybe it's a cliff,
That's wasted
like.
motion. That's like 5 more casts you could have made if you just went tinkle in the drive hole.
Oh no, yeah, I used to drive hole.
See, that comes from a guy that used to have a kayak that every time he had to go tinkle, he had to go to the bank, because if I stood up in mine, my fat ass would have fallen in the water every time and lost everything I owned. Just curious, side tangent from forward-facing sonar, but forward-facing sonar, yeah, great technology. I love it. It's wonderful. I don't think it's hurting fishing at all. I don't know why I just said I don't think, because I said it, but it does not hurt fishing at all. It's wonderful. It's great. People are going to use it. It ain't going nowhere,
Yeah, it's not going
because
anywhere.
the people, the companies that are putting it out there are like major companies in the business now. And look, if you think Bass or MLF is going to come tell Humminbird or Garmin, look guys, we can't do this anymore, we're banning it. You talk about some money not coming in anymore, they'd be like, okay, well, we go out here with the saltwater guys, because one, they make a lot more money than bass anglers, and two, they're not going to ban it.
That's true. Yeah, it's all give and take. It just have to wait like viewership, ratings, the money you're getting from these companies.
You
I
gotta
would
get
say, if I would say worst case scenario, you ban it, and I'm not calling for this, but I'm just saying, if they were to ban it, it's kind of be like the Hobie BOS, where they banned the motors, but you can use it in pre-fishing. So they would allow the anglers, say you can use forward facing sonar on pre-fishing, but you can't use it on tournament. I
think
could
that
maybe see that happening, but again, I'm
that would
not calling for either
yeah
one.
that goes back to my point about people understanding fish behavior. That would probably give some of these guys a leg up still. I mean, when they learn fish behavior, depending on how good they are on it. I don't see it going anywhere at all. Matter of fact, non-motorized kayak tournaments I see is a dinosaur right now, and I see that there's only one. One major tournament trail still doesn't allow it. That's probably, this is just me guessing, that's probably going to change, because I
Yeah,
started
probably.
I started kayak fishing in 2021. I have a motor now. The amount of motors I see on the water is probably at least half, if not more. Our local clubs, people have motors. More and more folks are going to get motors on their kayaks, and more folks are going to be less inclined to fish some of these tournaments without it. There's some local clubs. We've got Queen City here in North Carolina that still is motorless. Vinny says he will never change. I think it's a different aspect on the local club side, but if we're talking about the national kayak side, I see that becoming a way of the dinosaur, and it's not going to be a thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hobie BOS is going to start allowing motors next season, if not. I mean, yeah,
Yes,
next season.
you,
I
you
don't,
got a lot of you got a lot of
especially
folks.
with the rule changes, which that's a comment I made on a previous podcast. It's like, it's interesting because the Hobie BOS was the most successful trail with the rules that were in place before this whole thing happened, that caused the rules to be changes. And a lot of it was because AJ McWhorter knows how to handle things inside, within, behind curtains. Like, I'm sure there were conversations between people that were being accused of doing what ultimately changed the rules behind closed doors, where they're like, all right, I understand that you view the rules this way, but this is now how it's meant to rule. So from now on, we're going to ask you not to do this, or this is how you're going to, this is the intention of the rules. So therefore, there wasn't really any rule changes Hobie BOS, but there was a lot of conversations. And AJ was one of those persons where if you go to a tournament, you will listen to him talking. He would get very, very detailed in the captain's meeting about accessible water, about portaging and all that. and that cleared up a bunch of the gray areas uh, that was related to what happened in Bassmaster Kayak Series. So by them kind of like sitting all three together, KBF, Bassmaster Kayak Series, or Bass Nation Kayak Series, and Hobie BOS, and streamlining the rules, it really affected Hobie. Whereas Hobie was doing great without the rule changes, just by, you know, not doing any rule changes per se in the rule book, but very, very specific and detailed in the captain meeting about what they meant. Sorry about that. About what they meant
Bless you.
with the rules. Thank you. Um, and they all this is, I think, one of the reasons why, not that Hobie's struggling, because they're still making numbers, but the numbers have gone down noticeably from last year.
Kayak fishing is evolving at a very high rate.
Yeah.
And if the major trails don't evolve with it, then at some point they either will cease to exist or they will cease to exist as what they are now.
Yeah.
It is evolving. You went from just 5 years ago with most people out there fishing out of boats that still had primarily PVC setups, DIY rigs,
Yeah.
to then specifically made kayaks with specifically made things to put on your kayak. They become small bass boats to motors to technology. Got folks out there with 2 or 3 screens on a kayak. It is evolving so fast. It's catching up to the boat world in terms of the shit that we put on our kayaks.
Yeah.
And that is what people are going to want. They're going to want the motor so they can run 15 miles in a day and not get back to the ramp at the end of the day and be dead tired. You know, they're going to want that stuff. And when it comes down to it, when you enter a tournament, you are a customer of that tournament. And so if you are a customer of that tournament and they
I don't view it as a customer, because you
but you
are
you're
paying
paying
to
money.
play.
Exactly. That's the damn customer. I mean, you
Well,
take
yeah, I guess you're
football,
right.
You
Yeah, I
take
guess you're right.
football. Let's take any professional sport. Those guys don't pay to play. Those
You're right.
guys are paid to play. So
You're right.
when we enter in a fishing tournament, we're a customer of that tournament. And it is that free market, that capitalism, whatever you want to call it. But with tournament fishing is that. And if you are not catering to your clients who are the anglers, because they have to pay to be in that tournament,
That's true.
they are not going to buy your shit. If you sell barbecue and your barbecue sucks, people ain't going to buy your barbecue. They're going to go down the road and buy somebody's who doesn't. We are clients to these tournament trails. And if they don't evolve and cater towards the clientele that's paying the money to be in them, people ain't going to do it. They either ain't going to do it or going to find one that does cater to them and who they want to be as a client.
No, and I get it. And you're right about that. You're absolutely right about that. 100%.
I have never been wrong. I tell my wife this shit all the time. She doesn't believe me. And sometimes she realizes that I was right a few minutes later. And sometimes it takes years.
Yep.
You're like my podcast wife. Well, I'm kind of like I got Alex is my podcast wife, and you're like my other podcast wife.
I'm the wife.
Well, you're both wives. You're both short.
Why am I the wife?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. You're
All
my
right.
podcast husbands. I love you. We're great. It's a good time. But, you just have to understand I'm always right, because I don't speak unless I'm right. And if I do speak and I'm not right, I'm going to argue to the point that you have no idea what's going on anymore. And you're like, you're right, because you just want it to stop.
Yeah. All right, buddy. I've had you for an hour and 34 minutes, and I'm
This ain't
tired.
nothing, man. I told you I was good to at least 10:58. We have 50s. We have a few more minutes. I'm just kidding. This is your podcast. Don't let me make you. I mean, you didn't get to drink tonight. I feel bad.
No, I'm still making sure I don't get. If I start drinking after a long day of fishing, then I don't know. I'm old. Then
You're gonna wake up. You're gonna wake up.
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
gonna
middle of
wake
the
up
night
sick
catching some
again.
cramps,
Yeah,
or catching
I wanna
cramps in the middle of the night. Help me!
Oh, those
Help
are
me!
bad.
I got a Charlie horse. Help me, honey. Help me, honey.
That's bad. I haven't had that
Stretch
happen.
my
I drank too
legs.
much water. I drink too much water. That hardly happens to me. But yeah, it's painful when it happens.
That's how it goes. If you're in a kayak, you have got to stay hydrated.
Yep, especially if you're in a paddle kayak or paddle or no motor. Meaning,
But I got a motor and I still pedal everywhere I go. And then when I get to where I'm going, if I'm not spot locked, I turn that off and still pedal. I can get half a mile per hour faster pedaling with the motor on. And I don't win a lot of tournaments, but I'd be damned if I'm going to get beat to a spot.
yeah. Hey, it makes a big difference sometimes. All right, Paul. What? I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes so you can plug in Bass and Brews. Where can people follow you? Where can people listen to you guys? And what's coming up with the Bass and Brews podcast?
Bass and Brews podcast. We're on all your podcast platforms. You can find us there. Apple's the biggest that we have, and then after that, it'd be Spotify. But you can find us on that. You can find us on Swamp Rat Fishing on YouTube. We don't have a huge following there. We get about 50. Every now and again, we'll get a YouTube person that comes on and gets us some few extra views. But Swamp Rat Fishing on YouTube, Bass and Brews on the podcast worlds, Bass and Brews on Instagram. We don't do much on Facebook. We're most active on TikTok. That's mostly Alex. If you see some dumb shit coming across, that's usually me trying to mess him up. TikTok is where you can get hold of us the most, and that's probably where we're most active. You can also follow me at Paul Heels, PaulHeels, on Instagram or TikTok. I'm most active on TikTok as well. I do a lot of Bass and Brew stuff through mine. Alex is the one on the Bass and Brews one, so you can follow us there. Hey, hit me up on the Facebook, Paul Roberts. Love to follow you on Facebook. If you ever need anything, y'all just holler at us, reach out. If you ever want to be on the podcast, reach out. Our podcast is mainly built around content creators. That's primarily who we bring on. And we don't care if you have 100 followers or 100,000. We don't care. If we like your content, you want to have a good time, you want to come on a podcast and talk about everything but fishing on a fishing podcast, we're the podcast for you. We are entertainment. We can take it back to the Fast and the Furious. And you said the people who produced Fast and the Furious, they knew who they were. They knew their role. They knew their lane. That's who we are on Bass and Bros. We know our lane, and we're going. I won't say the words, but our last episode that dropped last week was Fornicate, Marry, Annihilate with Alex Rudd. That's not what we called it. You have to listen to the episode. But that's the kind of stuff we do. We want to drive entertainment. There's so many other really good podcasts that you can go on and actually get tips and tricks and learn about the industry and learn about fishing. And we do have those folks on sometimes. But we also, that's still a small part of what we do. We want to be entertaining. We want people to be able to laugh or, not safe for work. We call it all the time. We enjoy it. It's a good time. And, we've been able to meet a lot of folks that really do know how to run a podcast and know a lot about fishing. So on a selfish point, we do enjoy that. But you can find us on all the social medias, Paul Heels, Jabber Hammer, Paul Roberts, Alex Castanuega, all that stuff. Yeah, and that's who we are, man. But if you want to be on an episode, reach out, holler at us. We'll see what we can make happen, and we have a good time. But it's not safe for work. And even though it is Bass and Brews podcast, people say, "Well, man, I don't drink." That's okay. We have plenty of people that don't drink on the podcast. You can have coffee, you can have beer, you can have liquor. It don't matter to us. We're gonna have a good time either way. It don't matter if you drink or don't. That's not a prerequisite. You don't have to. It's just a good ass time, and that's what we want to make it. We want to have a good time. We want to be entertaining, and if you do pick up some fishing knowledge, then that's a bonus, and you're lucky because that means that you're probably actually listening.
That's true. Well, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time, man, for coming on the podcast. It's always a joy to have you on, and looking forward to having you and Alex join sometime in the not so distant future, man. To keep talking some bass fishing and some shenanigans.
Well, hey man, I always love coming on your podcast. I've said it before in some of the earlier episodes you had me on. Yours was one of the first that I found at that point in time. You're on the other network, and I found you and I enjoyed it, and I started listening to it. If I go look at my podcast, they rank them by when you subscribe to them, and so you're still one of the first ones on mine. So
I appreciate that.
up until the point that I was actually on your podcast for the first time, I never really thought I'd be on your podcast, and so I enjoy coming on here. It's always a good time. We always have something going on that is fun to talk about. So I'm grateful that you continue to bring me on, and and you even let me crash in sometimes every now and again, and I
Every now and
appreciate
then.
my little cameos. I do like that. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for what you've done for us and our podcast. You've helped us out, and thank you for bringing us on. And yeah, me and Alex on a podcast, that would have to be one of your that would have to be one of your, we'll call it late night episodes, because when him and I get together, shit goes downhill real fast.
I know that. All right, for those that are watching or listening, we thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can follow us, Basque Kayak and Beers, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram on the Basque Kayak and Beers. Remember, if you're going to be on the water, wear your PFDs. Have a good day, everyone. Peace out.
Hey.